I've got a story for you. I have been waiting for a long time to be able to tell you this, and the story keeps getting bigger. I'm talking about what is now the biggest heist in Canadian history. And, my American friends, there's an American connection to this. And there are suspects still at large who may well be in your country. Until this heist, the biggest heist in Canadian history was the Great Maple Syrup Heist. No, I'm not kidding. Maple syrup. This is Canada, eh? If you want a video on that one, let me know. But this one has replaced that maple syrup heist. The way this went down is like a Robert De Niro movie, and then some. I'm talking about the theft of a shipment of gold and foreign currency from Pearson International Airport.
Once this cargo was offloaded at a holding facility, subsequent to its arrival, this high-value container was removed by illegal means from the holding facility.
The thieves were long gone before anyone figured out what happened. And now, American company Brinks is suing Air Canada. Oh, but that's not the only American connection. I'm talking about criminal connections. Along with the task force here, dubbed Project 24 Carat, American ATF is involved, along with Homeland Security and the Pennsylvania State Police. As you'll see, the police work on this was impressive. And in Pennsylvania, a state trooper was just having an ordinary day. No idea what was about to unfold. That's another thing you'll see. How what seems ordinary, routine, is often illusory. A thin veneer over the extraordinary. And how doing your job, even when it seems mundane, can make a difference. Here's what happened. On April 17th, 2023, in Zurich, Switzerland, a cargo container filled with gold bars and foreign currency with a total value of $23 million was loaded onto an Air Canada plane destined for Ontario, Canada. The plane with the cargo arrived at Pearson International Airport at 3:56 p.m. This cargo weighed over 400 kilograms. For my American friends, that's over 800 pounds. The cargo was unloaded and put into a cargo facility. This was supposedly a secure facility, but Brinks in their lawsuit is saying security was lax. At 6:32 p.m., a man walked into that facility and handed a waybill to the Air Canada employee to collect the cargo. Here's the waybill, all routine. This waybill was originally a legitimate bill for a shipment of seafood, but that seafood was picked up the previous day. One of the thieves duplicated the legitimate bill, and the police were able to determine that this was printed off from a printer within Air Canada Cargo. Being handed what looked and felt like a legitimate waybill, the Air Canada employee released the cargo to the man. This is an example how routine can make a person less vigilant. All day, every day, the employee gets a waybill, locates the appropriate cargo, and releases it to the person presenting the waybill. If they stood there examining and questioning every single one, they'd never get anything done. Have you ever seen a security guard who appears to be in their own little world, half asleep, not paying attention? There are tricks that professionals in executive protection use to guard against this, but the average Joe isn't taught those things, and it's just another day. Not only was this shipment released to the thieves, it was loaded into the suspect's truck for him. How brazen, eh? Right under the noses of everybody, the guy steals this high-value shipment. So Buddy drives away with the gold and the money. Employee thinks nothing of it until 3 hours later when Brinks shows up to get their shipment. At 9:30 p.m., Brinks employees go to the cargo facility, hand over their waybill, the real one, to get their gold shipment, which was ultimately to go to Toronto Dominion Bank. But oops, the cargo container is gone.
Uh-oh.
Air Canada employees search and search for this cargo. They investigate internally. Can you imagine that scene as the realization of what happened started to set in? Finally, at 2:30 in the morning, they call police. Investigators speak with a manager, Parmpal Sidhu. He gave investigators a tour of the cargo facility so they could see how everything was laid out. Police went door to door, businesses and residences, securing all the video they could find, trying to track where this truck went. I mean, the guy's got a head start now, right? This alone is a huge job. If you've driven in the Greater Toronto area, you'll know there are a lot of big white trucks. Imagine having to sit looking at video of traffic. Well, they did. They checked over 225 businesses and homes for videos, then secured and watched hours of video. Even with many officers involved, it took 4 weeks to do this. But they managed to track that truck. Watch.
Beginning at Air Canada Cargo. Working with community business owners in Peel and Halton region, investigators reviewed their video surveillance and believe the truck took the following route after leaving Air Canada Cargo. Westbound on Britannia Road East. Southbound on Dixie Road. Westbound on Highway 401. We continued to follow the truck and checked each exit that Highway 401 intersects with. Air Mills Parkway, Winston Churchill, Trafalgar Road. The truck does not exit at any of these roadways. This continues into Halton region as the truck passes James Snow Parkway. And we observe the truck exit at Bronte Road and go northbound on Bronte Road. We continue to follow the truck northbound on Bronte Road. Eventually, as the truck travels north of Milton, it becomes more rural and we lose sight of the truck.
As the truck drove into more rural areas, there were no cameras, and so police lost sight of it. Through additional investigation, they did, however, recover that truck. Look at this press conference with Peel Police. Look behind them. That's the truck. They also managed to identify the driver. His name is Durante King McLean, but by this time, he was in the wind. 24 Carat Task Force continues to investigate. Months later, American company Brinks launches a lawsuit against Air Canada and makes blistering allegations, while both the company in Zurich and TD Bank in Canada say, hey, we got nothing to say. And remember this guy? The manager at Air Canada who was so helpful and took investigators on a tour of the cargo facility? Well, in the summer, he resigned. Oh, hello. Police investigated and got enough to obtain 37 search warrants and 70 production orders. This is a huge amount of work. And, of course, they're real interested in this Air Canada manager who has resigned, but he's disappeared, which, of course, makes him even more interesting. Fast forward to September 2nd in Pennsylvania. Just another workday for this state trooper who, in the course of his ordinary duties, notices a driver making mistakes, traffic infractions. Let me just note here that even though I say ordinary day, run-of-the-mill, and I'm going to talk about a routine traffic stop, in reality, there's no such thing, and every police officer knows that. A routine traffic stop is one of the most dangerous things for a police officer. DVs are also high on that list. Anyway, the trooper initiates what is expected to be a routine traffic stop, except it's bananas. The trooper learns the vehicle is a rental. During this traffic stop, the trooper finds firearms in the vehicle, and as soon as he sees those, the driver bolts, and the foot chase is on. Now, what happens when you run from a state trooper? You go to jail tired. Police found 65 firearms in that vehicle. Through their investigation, they learned that these firearms were destined for Canada. Most gun crime up here is committed with illegal firearms, and the majority of those come from the United States. The driver of the rental vehicle who ran from the Pennsylvania trooper, King McLean. When police in Pennsylvania ran King McLean's name, they found he was wanted by Peel Police here. Oh, it gets bigger. Let me show you information from the U.S. Attorney's Office. The United States Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Pennsylvania announced that Durante King McLean, age 25, Prasath Paramalingam, age 34, Archit Grover, age 36, all of Brampton, Ontario, Canada, and Jaleesa Edwards, age 25, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, were charged in a multi-count federal indictment with charges stemming from a conspiracy to engage in international firearms trafficking. The indictment alleges that King McLean was stopped by Pennsylvania State Police on September 2, 2023 in Franklin County, Pennsylvania, after several motor vehicle violations were observed. It is further alleged that King McLean, who was illegally in the United States from Canada, fled on foot when troopers discovered firearms in the rental vehicle. A court-authorized search warrant for the vehicle led to the recovery of 65 firearms that were allegedly destined to be illegally smuggled into Canada. 2 of those firearms were fully automatic and considered machine guns under federal law. 11 of the firearms were determined to be stolen, and 1 firearm had an obliterated serial number. The indictment further alleges that Paramalingam was involved in the conspiracy since April 2023 with persons known and unknown to the grand jury, including King McLean, to arrange for King McLean's illegal entry into the United States. While King McLean was in the United States, Paramalingam allegedly arranged funding for King McLean to purchase the various firearms which he obtained in Florida, Georgia, and elsewhere as King McLean traveled back towards Canada and through Franklin County. Grover and Edwards were charged by the grand jury as accessories after the fact for their alleged assistance to King McLean after his arrest to conceal evidence concerning his attempted gun smuggling and provide co-conspirators with information regarding the scope of the investigation, among other things. The case was investigated by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Harrisburg office, the Pennsylvania State Police, and Homeland Security investigations. This prosecution is also part of an extensive investigation by the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. The stolen gold was to finance the gun smuggling operations. Police in Canada recovered smelting pots, casts, and metal molds. They also recovered crudely made gold bangles. They look like junk jewelry, but they're worth about $90,000. Canadian police also seized $430,000 in Canadian currency, believed to be some of the proceeds from the sale of the gold. They also recovered 2 debt lists.
2 debt lists. One for $9.943 million and the other for $10.023 million. A common term in drug trafficking investigations, we believe these lists actually show where the money was distributed when the gold was sold by the suspects. These lists were found at 2 separate locations, and you'll notice we've blurred out the names. However, they are consistent on each list. We are working hard to identify each of these individuals. Some other items on the list, they've allocated money for trips, supplies, and personal items.
There are 18 names, and they should be very nervous because Peel Police are investigating each one of them. Within the legal community up here, there's a tongue-in-cheek moniker assigned to Peel. They call it No Deal Peel. You don't want to be charged with a criminal offense there. American police found messages between Paramalingam in Brampton, Ontario, and King McLean shortly after the gold heist discussing King McLean illegally crossing the border to get guns to bring back to Canada. They'd used an encryption app to message each other. Did they think the police couldn't decrypt that? And Paramalingam was in Portugal by this time. He returned to Canada. Then he and some other guy from Toronto flew to New York City to deliver cash to King McLean. Then Paramalingam ends up in Miami, Florida, then flies back to Toronto. King McLean was also in Miami by this time, but he stayed, renting an Airbnb. In August, he rented a vehicle and started driving north. As you know now, he crossed paths with that trooper in Pennsylvania. An individual named Archit, who is a fugitive from Canada, was also in Miami, and after King McLean's arrest, Grover allegedly removed evidence from the Miami Airbnb and tried to assist King McLean and hinder the American investigation in other ways. Police seized 65 firearms. 2 of the people they charged were Air Canada employees. Well, not anymore. Bad career move, boys. Not a good decision. One of the people arrested was a jeweler from Ontario. I'd like to see a forensic accountant have a look at his operations. I have trouble believing anyone goes from a friendly neighborhood jeweler to major heist, co-conspirator, and gun runner overnight. The people the police are still looking for could be anywhere.
Investigators have identified and charged or issued warrants for 9 individuals with over 19 charges. Parmpal Sidhu, a 54-year-old man from Brampton and an Air Canada employee. Amit Jalota, a 40-year-old man from Oakville. Ahmad Chaudhry, a 43-year-old man from Georgetown. Ali Raza, a 37-year-old man from Toronto. Prasath Paramalingam, a 35-year-old man from Brampton. Canada-wide warrants have been issued for the following individuals. Simranpreet Panazar, a 31-year-old man from Brampton and a former Air Canada employee who was employed at the time of the theft. Archit Grover, a 36-year-old man from Brampton. Arsalan Chaudhry, a 42-year-old man from Mississauga. Project 24 Carat investigators have been liaising with our friends with the ATF. We are alleging that some individuals who participated in this gold theft are also involved in aspects of this firearms trafficking.
So keep your eyes open. If you see them, don't approach them. They're invested in escaping the law. Just call 911. And it's not over. There are a lot more people on both sides of the border involved in this. The investigations in both countries are ongoing. Multiple law enforcement agencies are working together on this still. A whole lot of people are going down. That's the story so far. Trust your gut. See you in the comments.